Welcome to my video, everyone. I'm Manga Mike, and in today's video we're going to be talking about two-point perspective, and we're going to be talking in particular about how to make a cityscape with a two-point perspective. So as you can see right here, the difference between two-point perspective and one-point perspective from my last video is fairly commonsensical. It's instead of having your horizon line with one point that's pretty much in the middle of it that everything goes to, now you have 2 points. Now, the reason why I drew this this square in my drawing that you see here is because it's supposed to represent the paper. So one point is a little bit off the paper and the other point is right at the edge of the paper, just so you know. The closer you have those together, the more warped your drawing is going to look, so you want to kind of pull them far apart. So as you can see, I would recommend you go ahead and you do your 2 vanishing points and you draw some guidelines, right? Some very, very light guidelines. And you can do this on paper as well. The way I did it for this tutorial is I'm using Clip Studio Paint, and I did 2 different layers. One layer that has the guidelines and stuff, and another layer that is my actual cubes that I'm creating. So if you want a cube where you can see the top, so this would be like if you want to make the top of a, make it so that you're looking down like from a helicopter or a bird's eye view, I guess is what they call it. If you want to do that, then you would make your horizon line and you would put all of the buildings below your horizon line. Really what you probably should do in this case would be to make a almost a 3-point perspective, which maybe I'll talk about in a few weeks, but that's how you would do it. And if you want to do something that's like flying in the air, you would do what I'm doing right now. So you would do a vertical line that's above your horizontal line, and then you would use your vanishing points to kind of make your cube or rectangular prism or whatever. This would be good for making blimps, even the bottoms of clouds, things like that. So as you can see, the strategy is you create your vertical line. Some of the lines that are to the left of the vertical line, like the top of the cube, those are going to go towards your left vanishing point, and then if they're on the left, and the ones on the right are going to go towards the right vanishing point. Now where it gets a little tricky is when you're making the bottom face in this particular part right here of your cube. Now you have to kind of crisscross, right, because the one that's on the right, you have to get still from the right. I guess it's not really a crisscross. I guess I'm overthinking it. But just pay attention to when you're doing that, okay? So now in this part, I'm starting to actually make a little bit of the cityscape. So what you want to do is I actually kind of don't like the way I did this first one. This makes it look like the buildings are attached, which is, if that's what you want, you can do that. But you want to keep your buildings somewhat on the same guideline that's going to your right vanishing point and your left vanishing point, so it looks like they're somewhat in the same vicinity or same block. I like the way I did this one right here, this next building, because it makes it look like it's detached and there's like an alleyway between the building that I just drew last and the one I'm drawing now. So what you want to do is make sure you're doing your making your lines going towards one vanishing point or the other each time. Don't skip that step or else it's going to look kind of out of whack. That step, the southern in me came out right there. So as you can see, I'm kind of going ahead and I'm roughing in a couple of the buildings, and pretty soon I'll probably go ahead and flip it into time lapse. You don't need to see me do a whole bunch of different boxes. It's fairly straightforward once you get used to it, but again, practice. Don't just try to fly in there and do all these things right at once. Take your time. It takes a little bit because it's kind of difficult at first, especially like for me. I was a beginner doing this video. Actually, I'd never really done 2-point perspective, but I figured that I would try it and try to get a video out for you and a tutorial. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy. I'm not going to say too much. I'm getting ready to flip it into time lapse, but yeah, enjoy. Alright, so I'm going to slow it down a little bit now and talk about adding details to your drawing to actually make it look like buildings instead of looking like a bunch of boxes that are lined up in a goofy way. Um, one thing that I wanted to note though before I got into this is put a little bit more depth into your drawing. Don't just do buildings on like one row of buildings. Add them up, do some layers because it provides a little bit more visual interest. I could have really gone crazy and put more buildings in the background, but I decided to keep it a little bit more simple with this first tutorial on 2-point perspective that I'm doing. But one big thing is don't do the same types of windows for every single drawing or every single building that you're going to make. That is just going to look so boring, and it's going to have no visual interest, and your little city that you're making is going to be so flat looking. Don't do that. It's going to look fake, and that's not what you want. In perspective drawing, you're supposed to make things look realistic. Now, in this video, I don't really abide by that because I'm just doing a tutorial, and I wanted people to kind of get a little bit of a rough idea of what to expect. But, don't do that, okay? Just because it'll look so boring. Now, if you're just practicing, go ahead, by all means. Make all the windows look the same if you want to. But try to make it a little bit fun because 2-point and 1-point and 3-point perspective, as a matter of fact, when you're doing this part right here, it is just boring because you're doing the same things over and over again. So why not spice it up by making some designs and stuff that you like, right? Now, the other thing is... while you are adding your details, do it step by step. Don't try to add every single little detail at once. Go ahead and go like I did. Just make your big boxes, and then after you make your big boxes, the next step, make your windows. And after you make your windows, maybe you can add, little things around your windows. Make your doors. Do this, do that, and slowly but surely. I keep saying Shirley like Shirley Temple, and that's not how you say it. Slowly but surely, you will, start to build up something that looks fairly good and is unique. Also, I wanted to talk. You can't, if you're doing this digitally, don't try to, like if you mess up some windows or whatever, you want them higher or lower, don't try to take them, copy and paste like I did just a second ago. It's not going to work because it's not in perspective anymore. So just as a heads up. Well, other than that, I'm probably going to go ahead. I'm not even going to time lapse. I'm just kind of going to cut and go towards the end. And you can kind of see all the details that I did. One last point is that things get smaller as they go towards the vanishing points or they get closer together. So keep that in mind while you're doing it. I'll explain it in more detail in just a second. Sorry that I just kind of skipped ahead. These perspective drawings, especially for backgrounds, are very time consuming, and I didn't want you to have to sit through the entire thing. But there are a few things that I did want to talk about very quickly before I move on from this video. So one thing that is important to note in perspective drawings is the fact that things that are on like the same, I guess, perspective line, that's like kind of a guideline for you, are the same height. So for instance, I just drew this line the building that's all the way on the left that I'm pointing at right now, the building in the middle, and the building all the way on the right closest to the vanishing point, those three buildings are technically the same height. So if you were to take them and put them side by side in real life, they would be the same height. And that's important to note because the building that I'm pointing to right now should have bigger windows than the building that I'm pointing to in the middle, and that building should have bigger windows than that building, and yada yada yada. Unless, of course, it's a stylistic thing where you want the windows in that particular building to appear bigger. But just keep that in mind as you're using perspective drawings. It'll help make it seem more realistic, and it'll kind of bring your environment to life instead of it being kind of fake looking, I guess. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was if you are doing or putting up things that are equal distance from one another all the way to a vanishing point, there's a specific way that you want to do that. You don't want to just plot them evenly distributed. So in this case, I'm using street lights, and I'm using the lines that I already did this with as a guide. So I'm using 2 lines, and I'll put up another street light, 2 more lines, putting up a street light, 2 more lines, and so on and so forth. Now, one thing I did mess up is I should have put a perspective guide before I did these lights. So after I did the first one, I probably should have went to my vanishing point and drawn a line to show how far or how tall each light actually was, and I actually end up correcting this in the video. But the main thing that I want you to take away from this is that you can't just put one street light and then make it an equal distance from that street light to the next street light, and then use that distance to plot the next one, and then that distance to plot the next one, because then they look kind of awkward and not evenly spaced out from the perspective that you're drawing. So if you look closely, the lines are actually getting slightly closer to one another as I get closer to the vanishing point. So that's important to note so that you're getting a more realistic view of what this is like. So not only are they appearing to get smaller as they go towards your vanishing point, things are also getting closer together. So try to keep that in mind as well as you are making your perspective backgrounds. And that applies to 1 point, 2 point, whatever. Well, everyone, that's all I have for today's video. If you've enjoyed the video, please give me a like down below. It'll help support me. If you want to see more content like this, please feel free to subscribe and check out my other videos. If there are videos that you would like to see in the future, comment down below and I'll get to them as soon as I possibly can. And thank you so much again for watching the video. I'm Manga Mike, and I'm out.